Hello there friends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sohum and I'm on a mission to spread peace, love, and positivity through music. Today, I'll be reacting to the entirety of the Road to Big Whiskey 2009 documentary on the Dave Matthews Band. I love the Dave Matthews Band, if it wasn't already clear by the copious amounts of Dave Matthews reactions I've done on the channel, the amount I speak about them in and around my commentaries. Sometimes I reference them in my other reactions as well. It comes up in my live streams and my personal conversations. DMB are a big part of who I am right now, so it's very fun for me to get to dive even deeper into their universe, and doing so with interviews, documentaries, shorts, you name it, I'm there. So I'm really glad to be getting this request today, and that is all thanks to Craig the Humble for making this massive donation request. So everybody, please, in the comments below, thank Craig. I think you've probably seen him and had discussions with him as well in the comments, but please, it means the world to me. We are a tight-knit family over here. The Dave Matthews Band community are filled with excellent, amazing, beautiful souls, and we deserve each other, don't we? Anyways, let's jump into the action.
You ready, Carter? I'm set. Little dap. Here's BT Brockmore 10 speed on his way. Nice! Damn it. Ooh, that was good. Did you have your weed today? Cap, yeah, baby. Have a good one tonight. Happy birthday. I'll be like 3 weeks. We have Tinsley coming. He's good. Let's go grab our girl.
This is the part of the night called locking in. Dude, I've always thought Boyd is kind of jacked.
So we can noodle in A, right?
My goal in life is to get 18-inch arms. If I could do that, oh man. Still here dancing.
Ready? All right. I think there's sort of been a separation between recorded music and our live performance. Things change a lot on stage, night to night and week to week. We're not playing to promote anything but the show that we're doing, you know? But the show's been, from the beginning, sort of been our center, the part that's kept us going. There's a freedom on the stage. I was talking to Jeff Coffin, who's the most recent addition. He was saying to me the other day that he's never been in a band that's so open. I like keeping it loose because it keeps it exciting for me.
Hearing him say open makes so much sense, because it feels like DMB fans have trait openness. If you looked at like the psychology big five, openness is one of them. Yeah, is it big five or big four? Never mind.
I become part of the audience because the music is different every night. That openness makes it sort of much more playful.
We get out there and we have first of all, we have fun with it. And we get out there and we make sure that what we're doing is gonna touch that audience in such a way that they're gonna leave and be like, holy, what was that?
Dave puts everything into the music.
What he can do playing guitar and singing is pretty remarkable.
Dave has a certain energy, that frontman energy that we need.
He's not a showy vocalist. Like, there are vocalists that are very melismatic, singing a lot of notes off of one tone.
Melismatic? This is going to require a Google from me. Melismatic. Melismatic refers to a singing style where one syllable of text is sung over multiple musical notes. Dave does this sometimes. Let me hear what he said again.
Dave has a certain energy, that frontman energy that we need.
He's not a showy vocalist. Like, there are vocalists that are very melismatic, singing a lot of notes off of one tone. And Dave can move around like that because he's got really good control of his voice.
Still to this day, just a magical, just beautiful voice that's unmatched by anybody.
When he gets on stage, you know, that nervous energy is there, but I think we need that.
Nervous energy? I wouldn't guess that. Dave seems so confident.
But Dave, he tackles that in such a way that it's like, okay, take that. Let's go out here and kick some butt.
Boyd up there is a pretty remarkable violin player. He's also a remarkable stage presence. He's unique. There's something about, it comes across as pretty modern, but it's a really primitive way that he approaches that instrument, a really honest way.
I just always worry that he's going to fall off the stage when BT starts a solo. He's got the dark sunglasses, and I don't know how he does it, but he gets right up to the edge, and he goes, and it's something very unique. I don't think there's another fiddle player on the planet that plays the way he does. If the band was kind of feeling a little drowsy and maybe we just needed something, let's give BT a solo. You can't help. It's just like,
Because with this instrument, there's so much movement. So when you are that energized and amped up, all you have to do is just move around more, and then the melody picks up and he can go even faster and add more energy. It's very cyclical in that way. He's a positive reinforcer to himself. Oh, and here they get the positive reinforcement from each other.
And he'll get out front and he'll do his dance and he'll do his violin thing and get to stomping and twisting, and he's feeling it, you know, and we're feeling it too.
If I'm really there, I don't know it. You know, I don't realize what's going on. I'm just in there just rocking it, you know what I mean? I'm just standing in that moment, and you know, and then after the fact, it's like I might go, oh, that was cool, you know.
Stefan is my right arm. We have to lock so hard together to keep the foundation, so the other guys can make a statement. Right. When we played the other night, he did something that I just wanted to jump off the drums and just start screaming because it was so incredible.
That was nasty.
Yeah. Stefan brings that sort of youthful element to the band. You know what I mean? It's just like he's from the skater generation and so forth, and you know, and that's really cool to have that.
Having Tim back, Tim Reynolds on guitar, he's been playing on and off with us a lot, and I've played with him for years, obviously. Tim brings this ability to be immediate and conversational in music, no matter how big the audience is or how unusual the music is.
Yeah, he always has a way to like insert himself.
I can't believe sometimes I'm like in this band I'm playing here with Tim Reynolds, who growing up was like, you know, this amazing virtuoso musician.
Mr. Tim Reynolds on the guitar.
Rashawn was always reluctant to solo. He's doing it more now. He's stepping out more, spreading his legs out a little bit, and blasting his trumpet. But at first, he just wanted to sort of fit in.
When LeRoi started having Rashawn come out, that he liked about Rashawn is he was just himself behind the horn.
When Roy was injured, we brought another horn player, and Roy had, with Rashawn, had created this sort of section sound that we'd all started to really get excited about. That when Roy left, we said the one thing we can keep that Roy had brought is this section sound. So that was really the motivation behind getting another sax player, was to maintain a sound that Roy had created.
Jeff Coffin is outrageous. He had to fill some pretty damn big shoes.
Yeah. A lot of the fans know the music better than I do. I've had to put in, even before the tour started, about a month and a half solid of only working on this stuff.
He's had to learn a lot of music.
I didn't even think about that because Jeff just has felt like such a mainstay in my DMB listening, but because there were multiple iterations of DMB, yeah, adding a new musician, they have to learn the parts. They have to know what to do when. Even if they are that talented of a musician, you still want moments where you are all in lockstep with one another, playing the exact pitches at the exact right times. And of course, we know DMB, crazy time signatures, crazy modes and switches that you can't ever do on the fly. If you could play some of these things on the fly, I mean, that is truly next level. And again, they're such talented musicians, they can make it work, but when you want to really lock it in, dial it in, almost as if you were playing in the studio, then that month and a half before, that honestly seems like not even enough time. For me, it would take like 2 decades, I don't know.
Outrageous. Jeff, he had to fill some pretty damn big shoes.
A lot of the fans know the music better than I do. I've had to put in, even before the tour started, about a month and a half solid of only working on this stuff.
He's had to learn a lot of music, and not only like lines, but the way the lines were played, the intensity.
Now that Jeff's been out on stage with us for a while, he brings a really different energy, and I think the openness that the band had started to feel for each other again before Roy's accident has allowed us to be open to a really different player. Jeff's brought a really unique voice.
That's true. Carter
and I have a relationship on stage that is powered by what he can do. I don't think there are a lot of musicians in the world on any instrument that can play as explosively and as powerfully as he can.
Carter, you know, obviously is the powerhouse. He's like the rocket engine. He's got the energy, and when he's on fire, you can't help but to just hold on.
I try and be more or less the cheerleader, you know, for the guys, to a degree that allows everybody to step their game up, you know.
But cheerleaders, they're on the sidelines, they're dancing, they're making a show for everybody. But he's a player. He's a cheerleader and a player.
Another level.
That was okay, right? That was excellent. Man, I had my ears out, so I couldn't tell.
If he's really positive, everybody else feels that strength and feels like there's a captain that is worth following. I would say that on stage, Carter is absolutely the captain. It's really unbelievable to watch him play. I've never seen a drummer that can move a crowd just by himself, just move it. People can't believe what they're seeing because you can't, it's unbelievable. And in the middle of all that, he'll blow a bubble. One thing about that I think is unique about this band is you don't have to fit any dimensions or stylistic boundaries to fit into the band.
Thank you very much and good night.
It's so true. I was having this conversation the other day, and DMB, they're so versatile, and a lot of popular music, right, goes through a lot of bureaucracy. The music is looked over once, twice, 100 times with many different hands exchanging it. You have ghostwriters, you have then the artist's input, and then there's so many layers to this thing that sand down the actual art and just make it something artificially pristine. And Dave Matthews Band, they just love to let the music stand for what it is, especially in their lives. They aren't going to like bend to the will of a record producer, a record agent, any like management company just to put the music out there. They're going to make the music what it is and then accept it for what it is if you are that agency. I just love how they stand on business, basically. Basically. Super studio sound.
don't really dig this album. You know what I mean? It's, to us, it feels like an album, like one of the first albums we did, like Under the Table and Crash. It's that same kind of excitement. We kind of like went back to the very beginning, you know, of the way that we used to start, which is like in Dave's mom's basement, you know, all together, like writing songs together.
We've been working on this for about a year, but it's been 4 years since a record. I think we just all knew that whatever happens, we have to make this record together. And it has to be a record that we're 100% behind, each one of us.
There's some great stuff in that, Carter.
Shoot, yeah, Carter. Yeah, it felt good. Yeah, that was tight. Can we do it again? Is everybody cool for that? I know it's late, but I'm starting to feel a little taste here.
Okay. We brought in Rashawn and Jeff, who are with us playing trumpet and saxophone.
Fire.
Oh yeah. Maybe go. I mean, it's not that, but then maybe just it's just something that's exciting from there. Oh, there you go.
You can see he's sweaty. I love these behind-the-scenes footage of their process in creation. That to me is some of the most interesting content that I find on YouTube. Is, you know, producers doing their thing, people mixing a track, or adding vocal layers, adding guitar, just seeing even the ideation stage. Really cool to me.
Oh, that, I like that.
Yeah. So, and I'll go. And Tim was with us when we recorded Under the Table and Crash and Before These Crowded Streets.
What we had at the beginning was we had this eagerness. We knew we had something that was like nothing else.
Yes.
Audiences were enjoying it, but man, we couldn't clean the toilets at a festival or South by Southwest, man. They'd be like, hell no, you can't come down here. But then, you know, then there was a few records where we kind of, you know, I think, like I say to Carter, we went a little bit of a holding pattern, you know, and that was faith. I think that was faith in what we were doing as well. Mm-hmm. But we just kind of lost connection with each other. You know, I think we all kind of bottomed out, kind of came to a head at a point. But then, you know, good friendships and good management, we worked out. We got into a room together and sort of punched it out.
2008 writing session for Big Whiskey and the Grux King. I'm glad Dave spoke about that, being in that holding pattern, because this happens in every aspect of life. You kind of feel like things are a little stale, a little boring. If we're not growing, we're dying. And it's not necessarily complacency. It's more like you're just witnessing the slow bleed. You know what I mean? Imagine like you're investing in stocks and you know your company is good on paper, but like there's nothing really groundbreaking and growth isn't possible. So it's just sort of a middling zombie-like company that's neither growing nor shrinking. It's just in the middle. But when there's competition, of course, it's far more likely that you do shrink in size. Anyways.
And that sort of started happening in the last few years. We started seeing that we needed to do that again. And, you know, I'm glad to say Roy is one of the people that instigated this change, changing himself, changing us.
You know what I like, Dave? I hate to say this. I like the other part to end on, man. The part that comes, I don't know what you call it, right before that.
What are you talking about that?
I like that.
That's what I like.
I think it's better because I think it's better. shorter.
It's a little bit more, it makes it a little less predictable.
Yeah.
You know.
The music started feeling it live, you know, it started happening live. The music started changing again. There started being aggression. We got Tim back in, and there's a whole lot of things started happening around what is giving this sort of the birth of this new record.
It's evolving in real time. It's remarkably cool. They're so young. The tuning.
There's been a rebirth in a way, and Roy was there for the rebirth. This hasn't happened since his death. It was happening before he passed, and I think that's continuing. His death has maybe amplified how together I feel and how close I feel to the other guys in the band. Really, Roy's passing has really made me understand how important it is to enjoy every minute on stage with the guys.
In the studios, like Roy was always behind me in the booth behind me. So I'd always like we were playing, I'd look back there and there's LeRoi.
We missed him a lot in there, you know?
Missed him incredibly. Yeah.
We had some times when we could sit down and listen to the tracks that we had of his, because we had a lot of music. You know, the record starts with him, the record ends with him.
So maybe they'll explain it in the documentary. So did he pass during the writing process, and they had to like fill in some parts, or was it fully complete and then he passed away? Let me quickly just Google just so I have the fact. LeRoi Moore's death in August 2008 was not during the writing of the Dave Matthews Band album Big Whiskey and the Grux. He passed away due to complications from an ATV accident that occurred in June 2008 after the band's last show of the tour. The album was released in 2009. I see. So that's the writing. The writing was already finished. The album was released in 2009 and featured some of Moore's playing, including a hidden track with a saxophone riff he had recorded. Okay, that's the timeline of events.
I've heard him play some of his best stuff on this record, and it was weird because, you know, we were in the studio in Seattle last year. You know, nobody knew, you know, you don't think about that. You don't think about leaving this earth, you know, you just want to keep moving forward. So we weren't thinking that. But the way he was playing, it was almost like he knew, you know, and it was the weirdest thing. He was like, hey, I'm leaving this for you guys. You guys need to, you know, grab this stuff and step up your game.
You know, for all the bad, there's also those good, and the good thing is that it is his record. He's on the record, and you know, with any luck, we'll find more tracks of his for records to come.
Long live.
This is a new song. This song will always belong to LeRoi Moore, our good friend, who will always be with us.
Out of
all of us were just thrashing, and it was just a noise, you know, because sometimes if you're just trying to be completely spontaneous and honest, there's just nothing but noise.
Right.
So we were making this noise, and it all just suddenly fell into this perfect groove. So we were just, it's like, and Carter just blasting, and everyone just blowing, and then it suddenly was like, and it was just a great moment.
Hey, you know what I'm saying? Going to another session. Like that when you did that.
And shift gears. Yeah. Right. That was where it should have shifted gears.
We just do at the end of that.
The way you played it, the way you played it.
The first way, right? That one, or the weird one?
It was like the weird one.
Yeah, we got it on that.
You went to like, where's my guitar?
Hey, what?
You can play it?
And Roy fell in love with that. And he was always like, what about that thing? We got to do something with that thing. He was always saying, what about this thing? We need to go back to that, you know. And I never wrote, while he was still alive, I never wrote on top of that. And then Stefan took over his Cry.
I had been listening to it, to a previous older version, and just the music. There were no lyrics or anything. And I came to Dave and was like, we have to work on this. The day he came to me with his lyrics on top of it, I was like, what'd you just do? I mean, this is awesome. This is so right on. LeRoi was in there, and the album title was in this song, and it was a song that we needed on this record.
Coming out of my monkey tree. I am still here dancing with the Grux king. We'll be drinking big whiskey while we dance and sing. When my story ends, it's gonna end with him. Heaven or hell, I'm going there with the Grux king.
We all sat, we ate together, we drank wine, you know, and we all had a great time. We talked about the music, you know, and we were there to work and to enjoy what we're all about, you know, and that's making music and being brothers. You know?
That's like, that is the dream, is just doing what you love with people who love to do what you love, with people you love, for people who love what you love.
know, because it had been a long time since we had gotten a chance to really connect like that, and we reconnected like we did in the old days, you know, in the early days. We got a chance to touch base with that, to reconnect with that, and it brought some good feelings, man, and again, you can hear that in the music.
Don't cry, baby, don't cry.
Da, da, da. Oh, so they broke it up in 20-minute chunks. Back when TV was a thing, which it still is, but I don't watch TV. Spin Through the Stars.
You know, Charlottesville is a mysterious place. It's a railroad town, for one thing.
Dave would always say there's something about the soil here, and there's something very fertile about it.
I first came down to Charlottesville. I moved down there in the late 80s. There's a lot of great jazz, a lot of great music that was happening in Charlottesville, and a really welcoming music scene.
All the musicians knew each other. A lot of just jamming going on, you know, different people, you know. It's just like LeRoi would invite me in down to some of his gigs and some of the bands he played in. That's the kind of scene that Charlottesville was, all these different kinds of musicians coming together.
Well, for a kid, it was great because a lot of the clubs where live music happened were actually restaurants, like Miller's, which is the bar where we all sort of got our start from. It was a restaurant, so a kid like me, 16 years old, could come in, have a cup of coffee and some nachos and watch like great jazz musicians or folk musicians or rock musicians or whoever it was.
It was a happening scene. So many musicians from all over the world, actually, that had established themselves in Charlottesville and become a part of the community.
The first musician that I ever heard there was Tim Reynolds, that I remember. Tim blew my mind. He was the reason that I went and asked for a job at Miller's. And that's when I heard LeRoi and I heard all this great music happening there.
LeRoi, I've known LeRoi the longest out of everyone.
Wow, look at how young. And this is their origin story, like, at the venue.
In the band. When I bartended, he used to play at Miller's a lot. He is just an amazing jazz player. And then, as I said, the first time I ever heard LeRoi play, he was
he had a few bourbons, and he was leaning up against the bar, and I was making salads in the back. I remember meeting LeRoi and Carter upstairs. I remember asking them to come upstairs, and I played some of my first tunes for Carter and LeRoi upstairs at Miller's. And that's sort of the birthplace of the band.
His style of playing guitar with the way he sang, it just something about it that just clicked.
It's a typical situation in these typical times, but we can't do anything about it.
I remember LeRoi and I looking at each other and saying, this guy has something. Let's go ahead and add our 2 cents and see where we go with this thing.
I think at that...
I mean, it's stars aligning, right? How can all of these musical geniuses come together? It just feels like too good to be true, and then it is, and then you have DMB.
At that time, he might have been a waiter, and he just like had this really long hair. We talked casually or whatever, but I didn't really get a chance to know him. I think he went away maybe to South Africa for a while, and he came back, and he had cut off all his hair.
With the Khoisan people?
And I didn't recognize him at first, and I remember I went down to this club called Tracks one night, and Tim Reynolds, TR3 was playing, and there was this dude on stage that was like, sitting in singing with him. I was like, wow, this guy can sing right here. And I was like, who is this? And I looked closer, and I was like, that's the dude from Miller's.
I had my own band before this, and we've been playing together for about 3 years or so, and that's pretty much, I guess, how Dave kind of knew me.
I think he was shirtless with a brown leather, vest with tassels all coming off of it, and a big cowboy hat, and kind of a sight for a 16-year-old kid.
Well, I'd already known LeRoi and Boyd. Well, we grew up together. It was my house, then a house, and then his house. And then 5 doors up was Boyd. Yeah, the 3 of us all grew up together.
That's funny.
We used to tease Boyd all the time about his violin playing, because he'd be on the porch, It's like, oh! Stefan, didn't know him, but I knew his dad, and I played with his dad for many, many years. And then his dad approached me one day and said, hey, look, you guys, I hear you're trying to get this band together. Why don't you use my son to play bass?
I was actually, I believe it was the second rehearsal that I sat in on, and I had an upright bass. I didn't know what they were, I didn't know. I was a student, and I was kind of studying upright bass. So I brought my upright. It was horrible. I was trying to play sort of this folky rock, beat and grooves on top of, with my upright. So I quickly borrowed electric bass, and the rest is history.
We started rehearsing in Carter's basement, in his mom's basement. Then we started rehearsing in my basement. Carter moved into my basement with me, where I was living, my mom's basement. But we used to rehearse down there. And I remember they were working on one song. I think Tripping Billy's actually was the song.
We were about, you were standing underneath us, we were not getting
I was writing the tune and the melody at my house.
That's crazy.
I called my girlfriend in Africa, and I played it for her over the phone. She told me it sounded like Hillbillies on Acid, so I named it that. That's where the name came from. Roy said we should get someone to play violin on this. Boyd was the person who came through, and he sat in with us a couple times.
I started with classical music, and I studied for about 8 years or so, and I then, just sort of had this idea in my head, about really being in a rock band.
I went there and
starting with classical, and now hearing Boyd's style it sort of makes sense, but it also is a surprise, because he just goes crazy on stage, and classical music, as you well know, is very very measured. Very precise. There's movements. It's all about the finesse, right? But Boyd is just thrashing that violin like we talked about earlier. This is cool. I like the way that this documentary is put together as well, because these interviews, they are cut up in a way that they just fill in the gaps that, I wasn't even expecting to be filled.
First rehearsal, we started playing, I was like, oh my God. It's like, oh my God, it's just like, we all, I guess, realized that we had stumbled upon something, you know, that was really cool.
Dave just started putting musicians together that he knew from Miller's, basically, I think, and from around town. And this is who he chose to be in the band, and that's how it started. And they just started doing their little gigs, and it was so powerful and great, and people just really picked up on it.
I met the Dave Matthews Band when I walked into the Bayou in Georgetown in D.C. And I went in there, and within like the first minute, I was floored. I just could not believe what was coming off that stage. Saxophone, fiddle, acoustic guitar, bass and drums. It was something I'd never heard before, and no one had heard it before.
We started playing every Tuesday in a little club called Eastern Standard.
We
had like 40 people every Tuesday night come out to see us, you know, and that's how we pretty much started as a band. You know, just playing there for drinks and food and whatnot.
So then we moved to a bigger place called Trax, and we played there every Tuesday. And then pretty shortly, we sold that place out at like 1,000 tickets a week.
Wow.
You know, we do little excursions up and down the East Coast.
We'd play any place that would have us. Small clubs, frat houses, street fairs.
We're the Dave Matthews Band. That's definitely the biggest bunch of people we ever collectively stood up in front of.
They'd be playing 3 shows in a day sometimes. You know, they'd play an outdoor festival, they'd play some sorority, and then play a club later that night.
We did pretty much everything. I think we played at an amusement park, if I'm not mistaken, one time.
We went to Canada once, we went to Toronto, and we went into the lobby of the hotel, and I heard some guy who was in there at the front desk, and he asked the guy behind the front desk, he was like, is there a circus in town? And I turned to BT, I said, he thinks we're in the circus.
The early years with the band were certainly a little more grueling probably back then, all living in a van together.
The van, there was band and crew and equipment.
It was
Gosh, is this everybody pictured in the van here?
Band, there was band and crew and
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11.
Equipment.
It was cramped.
Wow.
And it was smelly. And there were generally people sleeping on top of you. And not in a good way.
Going across country in blizzards to make it to a gig. You know, we never missed a gig. We had a lot of them, you know. So it was, we hit the road, and we hit the road hard.
When we got the van, that was kind of like a big deal. We're like, this is it. We're a band. It was a really amazing time for us, and it was musically playing as much as we played. We really honed in on something.
We were standing in front of the classic red van. This was the main means of transportation for DMB for the first 3 or 4 years, I think.
Just imagine 12 guys sitting in a van after a show, sweaty, stinking, and then on top of that, you add whatever fast.
Bro, I start to get sweaty after like 2 hours of like just sitting down and doing like reactions or something. If I'm going to sleep at night, maybe I'm just like a furnace naturally, but if I'm going to sleep at night and there's not a fan directly facing me, my legs will be sweaty. And my Indian genetics mean that I have very hairy legs. So if I don't trim my leg hair every like few months or whatever, my leg hair will immediately start perspiring. Rough scenes. So that's just me alone. Imagine 12 of me. I don't want to do that.
DMB for the first 3 or 4 years, I think.
Just imagine 12 guys sitting in a van after a show, sweaty, stinking, and then on top of that, you add whatever fast food restaurant we stop at. You know, we end up keeping all that stuff in the car.
There was always like little hidden pockets. People had their choice little areas where they would hide.
TMI, but I fart the most after McDonald's.
Cabbage and broccoli and lettuce and whatever you got in there. And all these things combined start to take its toll as far as the atmosphere.
Sometimes we would go on at midnight. We would finish at 4 a.m. and we would go to a hotel and sleep until 10 or 11. And then we'd proceed to get in a van and drive to the next show where we would, unload, set up, and do it all over again. And we were doing 6, 7 shows a week.
The first week at Trax, it would be like 20 people. Then the next week it'd be 40. It doubled every week. I mean, just the growth of it was phenomenal.
What would you say
People started taping our music. Then we'd start going to towns we'd never been to before, and kids would all be singing the music.
The first time the band ever went to Boulder, Colorado and played the Fox Theater, all these kids were there singing, and the band couldn't figure out why. And it's because the tapes were being traded.
Wow.
And what was such a smart move is Corn Capshaw, the band's manager, would have them play in places where he knew college kids congregated over the holidays, whether that's Christmas break, spring break, summer, whatever. He knew he was reaching more than just Chapel Hill, North Carolina at the right time. He was reaching all these college kids that would then go back and spread it through the dorms and whatnot, and that's why the band grew.
It certainly wasn't radio or
Very smart.
anything like that. It was definitely homemade tapes. There was no digital access to us at that.
See now, yeah, with the digital access and the different era we're in, like, music dissemination happens so instantaneously, but also it's very fleeting. Like, imagine the platform of TikTok, for example. These videos are so short and attention is so short. If your song even gets served to a user, they like it, they may never see it again after liking it. Just the way algorithms work. You can even look at YouTube. Take my channel, for example. I've posted so many videos in the recent months. You probably will never see some of the previous Dave Matthews Band reactions I've posted, even if you have been watching my DMB journey. And that's just a consequence of there being so much content out there, such easy access to it, and only finite amount of human resources.
That stage, it was back in the dark ages.
It was so unique in the time that the band broke. It was in the time of Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Seattle and grunge. There was no electric guitar, there was a violin, there was a saxophone. But yet the power from the stage was always there.
The energy in the crowd, the energy of all the fans just was infectious. It got crazy really quickly.
It just resonated with me. Because I wasn't thinking like a record executive, I was thinking like a fan. I just got caught up in the moment.
After we were signed, we recorded our own sort of half live, half studio album called Remember Two Things.
Basically, our album that we made, and it was kind of like thing we're basically selling out of the back of the trunk.
Going into the next chapter, I remember driving around the Virginia countryside with Dave and thinking like, well, who would be the right guy to make their RCA debut? There was one name that kept on coming up, and we kept on listening to all these records, and Steve Lillywhite's name was on the back of all those records.
Steve was the guy that came out and without any hesitation said, I know exactly what to do with this band. I know exactly how to record what they are on stage.
I got sent a copy of their independent record, Remember Two Things, and I remember vividly sitting in the front room, putting the CD on, and it starts with the song Ants Marching, with just a snare drum, and a snare drum, and a snare drum, and this snare drum just keeps going. Every time the snare drum hit, I went, okay, this is getting more ridiculous. Something's gonna happen. It was a fantastic feeling when the band came in, and I went, this is brilliant. I love this band, I love this song, and I was sold, and I thought, I have to see this band. They flew me over to New York, and I went to see them at Irving Plaza, and this gig was just fantastic. I just had this white light moment. I had this feeling that this band, I was the guy for them.
He had done so much. He was the first producer that I'd ever met to have his type background.
I love the work that he did with Peter Gabriel and the work that he did with U2. He has a great ear for sound, and I think that he made magic happen with the music that we had at that time.
Under the Table and Dreaming, we recorded that. We were at Bearsville, New York, which is up in Woodstock.
Being there in the spring helped add to this sort of joyful feeling that we were having up there, and everything was so new and so exciting.
We recorded mostly in this barn. Steve was very much into vibe, you know what I mean? Just low lights and candles and incense.
There were a lot of things about that recording experience that were amazing. It's hard to keep that. You can't ever, it's probably like the first time you kiss someone because you can't ever have it again. To go into this great big studio and those big reels of tape, it really felt like the real thing.
I didn't want it to go completely over the top on the first album because, for a start, we were using acoustic guitars, and I had this idea that having two acoustic guitars, this would be the way of retaining what the band were. They said they had this guitar player called Tim Reynolds. They wanted to come and do some overdubs on the record, and I said, well, having seen them, I felt that it would be great to have Tim there from the beginning.
I was almost expecting him to say the opposite, like, if we add another layer here, it's gonna overcomplicate things. No,
we were also wide-eyed and also excited about everything and so eager. It was a really exciting time.
When everyone's having fun doing it, you know, it's the way you want every record to feel. Every record can't feel that way, but the fact that the first one did, good memories, good memories.
Wow, this is like an iconic picture. I feel nostalgic, but I wasn't there.
Under the Table and Dreaming is a beautiful album because I feel that everything was right at the right time and the stars aligned themselves.
The industry still didn't have a grasp on what the band was. They still didn't know where to put them. You know, yeah, they're playing, but they're kind of that jam band thing. They really don't play songs, which is such a misnomer. Because if the band does anything, it's the fact that they write great songs.
I started getting word that this album was doing well, and then I got phoned up by Pete Robinson again, saying, would you like to do the second album? And I went, yes, I would love to. We've got the same studio booked, and I felt that that was good for a second time. I did feel we had to change things. Second album, I thought, okay, the band had a bit of a swagger. I wanted to translate that swagger into a more muscular, meaty record. LeRoi, for instance, I was talking to him about, you know, what can we do to help with this sound? And he said, well, I could get a baritone sax. And a baritone sax is this enormous, big, honking thing. And I said, yes, fantastic.
When we went back to do Crash, we had a lot of music still for that album. And then I was writing quite a bit. The song Crash was new. Yeah, I've been messing around with the idea of that song for an idea of parts of it, but the bulk of that song is most certainly inspired by the love of my life, which is my wife.
Crash into me, yeah, baby. They're coming to you.
Crash was special. We also, we recorded also in that barn, in that same studio. And, it was only our second album.
The second albums are very often the most difficult ones. And I think we succeeded in coming out with a good slap to the critics.
Second albums.
You know what's crazy? Is Crash is a song on this channel we haven't devoted a reaction to. It's on the list. Like, I'm sure many of you are surprised to know that. I was surprised actually to kind of realize that, because I hear Crash referenced so much, I almost feel like I've heard it, but I have not.
Are where you trip up. You have the big first album, very few artists. Second album outsells the first album. That happens very rarely. With Dave Matthews Band, it did. I think Crash is their biggest selling album still.
Crash into me, yeah.
That's got to be the best job on earth. Did you hear that tone
We
in the bass?
recorded before this trial. The streets were in Sausalito, California, just across the Golden Gate. Really nice studio called The Plant.
Being a new place and a new town, it was wonderful. I loved working in the studio. So to get to go to a new studio and experience, new people, and got to meet great people out in San Francisco and that area and learn about that music.
I'm thinking, my brain is now thinking properly. I have heard Crash Into Me, but it was not like a devoted reaction. It was it was in the concert. It was in the Tim Reynolds Dave show, the Radio City show. Yeah.
Scene and that history with that studio, with Fleetwood Mac recorded Rumors there, and that alone was enough to get me excited.
This is the record where they felt like they could definitely take some artistic chances. Don't Drink the Water, was the first single from that record.
Fire songs.
Which I always thought was a great statement. There were songs like Crush and Stay, but Don't Drink the Water was like this, Peter Gabriel anthem, which is, something you didn't hear a lot of.
I still felt I had more to give. Maybe my big idea for this record was, let's get some guests in. Alanis Morissette, the Kronos Quartet, the ladies on Stay, for instance. Dave had this idea that he loved little snippets of music, almost like commercials between the songs. We recorded maybe half a dozen little 30-second musical interludes.
And that was a lot of fun, to work on something knowing that it was just going to be like a couple seconds.
The best way to get a groove for songs is to actually just sit down and start playing.
We're freaks.
Yeah, when I was hearing that, those interludes during the full album reaction to Before These Crowded Streets, I was definitely like confused at times as to like what this is doing here, because it didn't feel like connected to the original song, and sometimes, not in all cases, but in some cases, it didn't lend itself as like a seamless transition into the next track. So it's cool to think that like maybe these 30-second interludes can almost be viewed as like intros to unfinished DMB songs, or at least sections of DMB songs that have yet to be released yet, or have yet to be released. End sentence. Something I've also considered is like, why don't more artists use like sections of songs in previous works that they've done and incorporate that into their new work, so become a little bit more self-referential, ignoring any like copyright issues between like production companies or something. That would be amazing, because you get to reuse some of the amazing grooves you all have already produced, but re-envision it in a new context. Obviously they do these things live, but in studio albums as well, I think more artists could benefit by looking at what they did before as well.
Every single one of us is a freak.
There was good fun. Dave had a lot of lyrics to write for that album.
We had to build all the songs from Before These Crowded Streets from scratch, because we had played all the stuff that we had done on Under the Table and Crash.
That My Brother was nice when you just sung it there.
God, that was cool. I can't. So you mean let it blossom? Yeah.
It was funny, there was one song that Don't Drink the Water.
Don't drink the water. Don't drink the water.
And we were trying to record it, and none of us were getting along, and none of us were speaking our minds. We basically left the studio cursing, like, forget about this song, very disappointed, very angry. I think I went out and drowned my sorrows. And then we came back in the morning, and Steve said, I was surprised, because we came back in this morning and listened to this recording, and that turned out to be the recording for Don't Drink the Water, and it ended up being an amazing recording.
Wow.
The band we were still together strongly, and we still had joyful times, but there were a lot more miles under our tires, and a lot more time together. So our patience with each other was at that stage wearing a lot thinner.
I think they'd been working really hard. There was a little bit of burnout factor. Under the Table and Dreaming was exactly that. It was a dreamy record. It was pristine and nice. And Crash was more of the muscular record. Before These Crowded Streets was a darker record. It's almost like the clouds were starting to appear. It was still sunny.
Maybe that's why I like it so much. There's a darker element to this production. Now, I don't like that they had to go through any tumult, but, you know, it does shape you a little bit.
But the clouds were starting to appear in the scene. You know,
miles under the tires. Such a cool description. the water. If they never released that song, life would be so different. Oh, that's part 2. So far, so good, man. This documentary is delivering. Love getting to hear this entire backstory.
Listen, well, welcome back to Philadelphia. I mean, you were here during the summer, now you're back for a couple more shows for Max. It's like you non-stop touring, though.
Well, we're out all quite a lot. This is a pretty long tour since April, and Tim and I go out for a little, you know, when we have time off, but the focus is the band.
Suspicion that things here are not as they seem. Oh, reassure me.
I'm still wondering.
Why do I feel as if I'm in too deep?
Well, I think we've made great music before. And I think that our early records, 1, 2, 3, were really, they're part of something. We started to get lost shortly after that.
But what I did, I thought needed be done.
We went to record our 4th studio record with LeRoi. We never really thought about using anyone else.
The band said they wanted to do it at their own studio in Charlottesville. It's very different recording in your hometown. When you go away, you're going away to make a record. When you're recording in your hometown, you're going to work.
Instead of finding a unique place, we found sort of a big building.
It was dark and the ceilings were low and it was a beautiful summer and we were inside in this windowless cave. Everyone's relationship with each other and our relationship with Steve really didn't prosper there.
I think at that time, it just became hard on everybody.
The vibe was not very good because Dave had to dig into his soul, and what was coming out was very interesting.
Oh, how I wish this.
After about 6 months, we had to go back on the road, and we didn't really have anything to show for it.
Seeing the way this album was going, which was further into a dark place, instead of coming to me and saying, look, Steve, you know this band better than anyone else. Can we turn this to a different way? You know, can we steer it? It wasn't done. And there was a sense of, you know, something has to happen.
In the end, the way to get out of that was just to move away from the whole thing, including LeRoi.
When we
stopped. Because the thing is, I love everything that I've heard from the LeRoi sessions. Their darker sounds are some of my favorites. So maybe I'm missing a bit of context here, but why was the band in such like dire straits? I'm gonna pull it back some.
In a unique place, we found sort of a big building.
It was dark and the ceilings were low and it was a beautiful summer and we were inside in this windowless cave. Everyone's relationship with each other and our relationship with Steve really didn't prosper there.
The environment. We need sunlight. It's the problem with filming so much I don't get the sun.
It just became hard on everybody.
The vibe was not very good because Dave had to dig into his soul, and what was coming out was very interesting.
Oh, how I wish
Clawing at the bottom of the well.
After about 6 months, we had to go back on the road, and we didn't really have anything to show for it.
Seeing the way this album was going, which was further into a dark place, instead of coming to me and saying, look, Steve, you know this band better than anyone else. Can we turn this to a different way? You know, can we steer it? It wasn't done. And there was a sense of, you know, something has to happen.
In the end, the way to get out of that was just to move away from the whole thing, including Lily White.
When we stopped recording in June, we were all ready to come back after their tour. But then I was told, no, I'm off. And it was like a brick to my head.
Those last sessions we did with Steve, a CD of it was leaked, called the Lily White Sessions.
The version that was leaked to Napster, I don't know who did it. There were literally only 5 CDs made, and I still have mine.
You never want anything of yours.
Are they going to out it? Because now it's, if there's 5, he had his, it's 4, unless somebody's lying. Why do people lie?
That you didn't want to be released, to be released.
And subsequently, when it was leaked, a lot of people really liked it. I felt embarrassed because I hadn't finished it.
I liked it. I like it. Present.
At that stage, we were done with each other in a way, and rightly or wrongly, Lily White received a lot of the wrath because we didn't aim it all at each other.
Times did become hard. And there were times, to be honest, when Dave was ready to throw in the towel. I said, look, being in a band, you know, and having a band is the thing that you'll be remembered for. I took them on a journey. We had this great journey. I mean, we ended up crashing, but there you go.
When the world ends, collect your things, you're coming with me. When the world ends.
As far as moving on and moving ahead, I think that after 6 months, I was open to anything.
We left that unfinished. It was leaked, but we'd already planned to go and try an album with someone new, so we went and worked with Glenn Ballard.
The idea was that Dave was going to come out and write 3 songs with me, and quite honestly, something else happened. We wrote 12 songs. We wrote 12 songs in 10 days. So we sat here and played the demos of the 12 songs for the band in this room.
It's always surprising me to learn that, like, songwriting can happen this quickly, because there are songs that I've been working on for years. And granted, I need to put more hours in just to become faster at what it is that I'd like to do. At this level, it takes just one day. That is productivity, and that is creativity, and it's all flowing out. And it's so genius because it's so good at the end of it all. Sohum.
And the guy said, my God, that's amazing.
When the world ends, when the world ends.
I just wanted to be part of the band, first of all, and maybe the music director for 5 minutes. I think they were just like, can somebody else be like the coach for a second? So that was enter Glenn Ballard.
There was a decision to bring in Glenn Ballard, who was mostly a pop producer, which is different from us. In this case, you know, it was pretty much everything was written and laid out for us before we got to the studio, you know, which was really different, to just sort of play parts that are written.
It was necessarily the most different, probably, approach they've ever had. But that's the way we had to do it. It was either that or this record wasn't going to happen.
And I think it's a great record, but it didn't have the chemistry that those early albums did. It had lost that for sure.
Glenn certainly taught Dave the art of writing songs and the joy of writing songs. I think people look at that record and go, well, how could it be good? It happened so fast. I think that's why it is good.
I think that each album we made were really different from anything else that was happening around that time. And then I think every day sort of made us turn more toward what was happening in music around then. Made us more like other stuff.
Taking more from their environment.
We went back in to record some of the stuff that we hadn't finished from the Lily White sessions, and it was a good record called Busted Stuff. Pretty good. But again, it was sort of in the shadow of something that the fans really loved, which was the Lily White sessions. And some of the fans really didn't like Every Day, which was a result of the Glenn Ballard thing. But at least for radio, that had been our most successful to that point.
Wow.
We came back together to work with Mark Batson on Stand Up. We all really liked him, and we liked how musical he was.
I think that Stand Up was us reaching as far as we could to try and see if we can make a record in a different formula than we've ever done before.
Every Day should have been the Dave Matthews Band featuring Glenn Ballard, and I feel like the same as Stand Up. It should have been the Dave Matthews Band featuring Mark Batson.
That was sort of the change in what was happening musically and with the guys in the band. And we became a little more distant from each other, and the music that was once really easy to make with each other started to become difficult.
The way we look at each other on stage or how we treat each other when we're passing in the hallway is not honest and open. A lot of unsaid stuff is amazing, destructive thing.
Yeah.
We just, just tired of putting up with each other.
Oh.
I sort of threw my arms up and said, I can't take it. I can't deal with the band anymore. It's just, we're unhappy. Unless we can find a way to actually be together. I don't want to just be together for no reason, so we can wither.
We didn't hit the bottom, but we saw the bottom. And the bottom meant no more band.
Yeah.
And no more band making no more music and having to all of a sudden only having what we had done be our legacy.
I remember Roy coming to me.
I can't even imagine, so when it comes to music, for me, the way I think about it is I have so much love for it and what I want to do with it. It is my own vision. And when you have a band, right, it's not just your vision anymore. You have collaborators and you have others with their own visions and dreams, and threading the needle, keeping it all together, all of your dreams being the same at the same time and growing in the same directions. Naturally there are going to be conflicts that need to be resolved or potentially hard decisions that have to be made. And it sucks that they had to go through these times where it could have been, as they suggest, as Stefan says, we saw the bottom. And I can only imagine in that specific moment, having that feeling, it is so scary because it's you're losing this thing that is so pure. And everybody fears that loss, fears not knowing what's to come because you had something so great. That is hard to reconcile. I'm glad they saw the band through all of these hard times.
Only having what we had done be our legacy.
I remember Roy coming to me in Charlottesville when we were starting to work on what was going to be this next album 3.5 years ago. And Roy said, man, you gotta lead this band, bro. If you don't lead this band, we're not going anywhere. We can't get out of this.
Wow.
And I said, I can't lead this band, man. This band is done,
Dave Matthews Band with no Dave Matthews. I don't even want to think about that.
At the moment that we were all...
Sorry to pause it so much. I know if you've probably been watching with me at this point and you don't mind, but it's one of the reasons why, a band like Linkin Park, right? They had Chester, and he passed away, and they added, I believe her name's Emily Armstrong, and rightfully, many fans are polarized by the band even restarting, at changing the core. And it's one of those decisions that will splinter, it will fracture a fan base. Because it's the Dave Matthews Band. No Dave Matthews, why listen to the band? Potentially is a thought process. others who may be more open-minded are like, let me listen, maybe it's gonna be good and I'll still be able to maintain my love, but then they listen and it's different and they don't like it, and that sullies their feeling. And then another possibility is they loved what happened before and what happened now is also great, and they feel about it better or worse. I mean, there are all these possibilities, but what should be expected is let's say a variety of responses from the outside world. But the thing about that is it doesn't matter what the outside world thinks. The musicians and their opinions, their feelings about it, that's what matters most at the end of the day.
Gonna slam the doors closed and not communicate anymore. That for whatever reason, everyone just sort of lined up for one last, sort of greeting. And then it just started working really hard on getting better.
Seeing the bottom sort of brought us together and made us realize that we love each other. We're all family, we're all brothers, we're all in this together. We have so much more to give. Just to let it all go and throw it away because we're having a hard time communicating with each other or we have a hard time understanding each other, we realized it wasn't worth it.
Out of that came this new explosiveness and sort of unapologetic way we were playing. And the acknowledgement that although we made some good records like Every Day and Busted Stuff and Stand Up, that those were not the band at its best.
At that moment, things started getting better and we started really coming together as a band. How do we want to make this next record? Not about how the record company wants to make it, not about how a producer wants to make it, but how do we as a band want to make this next record? We've had so many ups and downs in this band, but we were at an all-time high during last year. Before the summer tour, we were in the studio and we were all together in a room and everyone's laughing, having a good time, interjecting what they thought.
That's the one I was telling Fozzy, man. That's what I like about some of the tunes so far. And some of these will be so whack live. I can't wait.
I worked a lot harder on this record than I worked on, I think, any of our records ever. We gave each other sort of a mandate. Everything. Put everything you have in this record. This is all of us. Music by the Dave Matthews Band. The only really sad thing about this record is that Roy wasn't here for it.
Charlottesville music fans are continuing to remember Dave Matthews Band saxophonist LeRoi Moore. Moore died yesterday in Los Angeles of complications stemming from his June ATV accident.
We want to just tell you all that we had some bad news today due to some complications. Since some injuries he received a little earlier this summer, our good friend LeRoi Moore passed on and gave his ghost up today, and we will miss him forever.
Roy was going to check on something in his property, and he was driving an ATV across a field. He hit a ditch that was covered by grass. It was cut out by some truck that got caught in the mud during the rain. Broke him up pretty badly. I guess what had happened, he wanted to go and be in his house in Los Angeles and do his rehab there. But it was just right at that first moment that he got back there after coming from Virginia and going there. And a clot of some sort had gotten past the filtering system that they had inside him to stop it, and that's what killed him. Everyone was shocked. We all thought he was going to fully recover.
When I got the call in the morning, it took a few seconds, and I turned around, I went and told my wife, and that was where, the floodgates opened, and I really realized what had happened, and it was just so surreal for the rest of the day.
was hard. It was real hard on Carter. It was hard on all of us, but, you know, Carter knew Roy since they were little kids.
There are times when I'm at home, you know, I said, man, I'll think of some kind of riff or something, and I'll say, oh, man, let me call LeRoi, and I'll have to catch myself, you know, put the phone down because he's not there.
So sad.
He was really one of my best friends. He was just a funny guy, and just like had a lot of love and so much to offer, so talented. I mean, a saxophone sound. He's really one of my favorite saxophone players, and I'd say one of my favorite musicians, because he just brought stuff from the depths of his heart.
He was such a warm person. He could turn and smile at you, and the smile would make you melt.
I think about him every single day. He would give you the shirt off his back. That's what I loved about him. Just a beautiful, beautiful young man.
Roy was one of the most special people that I ever met in my life, and it's a big thing to leave such a mark inside someone. He wasn't an easy person either, you know. He could tell a good story, but he could also be kind of grim sometimes. But it's funny how when someone goes away, what they leave behind is however bright the light they shone while they were living, and then all the other things kind of turn to dust. So in my mind right now, he kind of looks like an angel.
Right. And you do want to remember those who we loved in that kind of a light.
If Roy would come into a room, and if everybody might be a little bit down or grumpy about something or whatever, he would come in and start joking around with them instantly, and suddenly get everybody laughing. He had just this way of completely cheering up a room.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Saxophone Boy. Saxophone.
I wish I was like that kind of person. My personality type is like, if I get like hurt by something, I kind of get quiet, because like I don't want to have a big outburst or something like that. I just want to keep it, you know, keep it managed. And if I can like have the conversation about whatever it is afterwards, that would be great. Because like sometimes like I can view teasing as like driving the needle in deeper. You know what I mean? This is a bit about me. I like that LeRoi is that like bubbly character and can bring that light to the room.
And suddenly get everybody laughing. He had just this way of completely cheering up a room.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Saxophone Boy. Saxophone Boy. I am not an animal. I'm a musician. Why is Snoop Dogg's clothes always so clean? Because he uses brioche. Great. Yeah. Y'all. Damn. Yeah.
Roy is really complicated person, but incredibly loving and incredibly beautiful guy. It's so unselfish when he plays. It's so absolutely not about him. In a really different way from any other musician I've ever heard. He plays as if he's not there.
Wow. What a great way to put it. Just the freeness in his phrasing.
I mean, he blows his ass off on the heavy tunes, but in the quieter tunes, when When you can hear him whisper.
Yeah. He perfectly serves the song like that.
That just blows my mind.
Yeah. I like that they're all impressed by each other.
You know, we lost like a comrade, but at his best, you know. So that's really cool. That's a great thing to be able to say.
So sad.
LeRoi was very true to himself. He wasn't trying to be anyone else when he'd play. It was just him coming out through his horn.
He had taken everything that he had learned from the great jazz guys and turned it into his style.
He's like, if it doesn't feel safe, he's like, that's probably the idea you should go with. He was a daredevil, man. He would dare to try things that weren't the norm, you know, and I really appreciate being around him for that fearlessness to just put an idea out there and let it develop.
I don't think the music world realizes how much of a loss it was, because he was a genius.
It's like when he's playing in moments like that, it feels like I'm hearing his soul. I mean, God. I like the way this documentary is edited so much. I'm no videographer, cinematographer, movie editor, whatever, right? But they're perfectly intersplicing these musical moments because they're, you know, ripped from either the studio songs or the live performances, to highlight what's being spoken about LeRoi. They were doing that when they were talking about Dave, Carter, Boyd, everybody. It's hitting especially hard with LeRoi. Hope you guys are enjoying.
Who's up for 7 now?
We're gonna try something we haven't done before.
I like this song. This song is called 7.
See, Evan.
I say this about every song, every single song on this record. That's my favorite song. No, that's my favorite song. You know, every song I hear is my favorite song. But this particular song, 7, is one. It had another title to it at first, you know, in the beginning, but we switched it because I think Dave got another idea, you know, lyric-wise. Feeling a lot better than I did a sound check. I was just so, and I'm still a little, but I'm a lot better, you know. It's just, you know, it's hard to make those transitions like that, you know. Well, at one time it was called Garden Hose, but now it's called 7. But it's a bad mofo.
I think we change the name again. Change it again.
Change it again. Keep changing it every month. Okay, so hit the root of that. Red is the color
of the sun with my eyes closed. I can still taste you, and I will again.
even if you did the
this song goes hard.
Oh, red is the color
Right.
of the. Even if once we get to that word sun,
right?
If you split there,
yeah.
by the time we sing it, you'll already have it in your ear.
It's just so fun to take something that's really complex musical statement, but if you can deliver it in a real honest celebration, this is how it goes, this beautiful music, then people hear it, and then they can hear all that, and it's not clever. It's not a clever song.
Right, yeah.
It's genius.
Red is the color of the sun with my eyes closed.
That's the one that throws me off. That one. That's the one that's stuck in my head, and I'm like, ah!
That's good though. Oh, you can sing that and sing whatever the you want.
No! Don't tell me that. Don't do that.
I'm gonna sing whatever I want.
But yours sound right though. I'd be like Elmer Fudd, man. Be hunting that. Where is that note?
And I keep taking it away. Red is the color of the sun with my.
What was that? The Motherless Child song?
Oh man.
Great.
Of my true heart.
One note.
Oh, black is the color of my true heart's love. True love's heart.
Yeah.
How you doing it now?
That's like so.
Funny twists and turns, goes in and out, but it's just a beautiful arc of a song.
Right.
I challenge almost any band to make it swing. There's like a pendulum, the way that song swings. Just like a pendulum.
Red is the color of the sun with my eyes closed. I can still taste you an hour again.
I don't think that's a song that I've heard on the channel. I really love their discussion about like their honest performances and it being clever versus genius, or because I like to look at things from multiple perspectives, right? I look at the holistic feel and emotion of the song. I like to look at some of the technical elements that comprise each layer of the what's being played. I love the composition of all of it together. Like, you guys hear my reactions. I like to dissect as much as I can, and sometimes with Dave Matthews, everything at the technical level, it is so beyond complicated, but when you zoom out, it all fits together perfectly, or in it like works at a macro level, and you wouldn't believe it if you were to like only see the bite-sized chunks. And maybe a different way to describe it is, imagine you've zoomed in so far into a fractal that the actual pattern that you're viewing is so discombobulated, it doesn't really make sense what you're hearing in that small bite-sized pixelated fractal. But then zooming out, you see that was part of a bigger scheme, which was part of a bigger scheme, and you continue to abstract away from what we thought we didn't know, and then you realize, oh, this is a top-down song versus a bottom-up song, and then you can kind of figure it out. At least that's how some Dave Matthews Band tracks work me around.
That tune is blowing up over the web. Everybody's talking about that tune.
From when we played the other night?
The first night we played it, yeah.
That's last night.
Last night, it hit hard, real hard. Yeah. It's burning on the internet right now.
We knew we needed to make a band record. It had to be something that all of us had our hands in.
Doesn't have to be your style, but I'm willing to bet that the style of music you listen to is well represented on this record, because it's diverse too.
There's no doubt in my mind that the Dave Matthews Band fan who's been with the band from day one, they're just gonna go, oh, this is it. I knew they had this in them. I knew this was the record they were gonna make.
Once we started writing, once we started working together, our ideas were flowing, but also everyone's ears were open to what everyone else was saying, and that was so important for this whole project.
Just like strong percussion and hand claps.
Then we could build it up so it's crazy, and then we could slam it closed and go into like that violin and saxophone thing with it and hit that. We knew we had something that was like nothing else. But it's real it's concise, you know? That doesn't mean there's not, moments of improvisation, absolute improvisation. It starts with it and it ends with it. And then there's moments in it that you have the big piece of granite and just... It starts real close and real personal, and then it just slaps you right across the face. How you doing? I can play the record or just punch you right in the nose. Grux was a nickname that Roy had for Carter, and Carter had for Roy, and Roy and Carter had for Tim. They all called each other Grux. And it was a name they sort of had for each other, or for what they did together when they played music together when they were young. When I met Roy, I spelled his name. I knew it was Roy, I knew it was LeRoi, but I spelled it with a Y, and he said, it's not with a Y, it's with an I, like the king. So when we were talking about making an album, we thought Grux King it had a good vibe.
Heaven or hell, I'm going there with the Grux King.
Then we were out doing a photo shoot, and this guy came stumbling down the street drunk, playing the harmonica. Really good playing the harmonica. And he said, I need a big whiskey, and he'd play for people and they'd give him some change. I walked up to the guy and I handed him a 20, and I don't think he saw what it was at first. He said, I need a, oh, that is a big whiskey. And Rashawn leant over and said, that's a good name for an album, Big Whiskey.
We'll be drinking big whiskey while we dance and sing.
And that's probably, hopefully, what people will end up calling this album. But I like as a full name, Big Whiskey and the Grux King, because it sounds like a fairy tale. Like a fairy tale from New Orleans.
And even like the album art feels very, almost like comic book-esque. No, not comic book. Some kind of art style that would perfectly encapsulate what it looks like.
Because it sounds like a fairy tale. Like a fairy tale from New Orleans, which is where he made this album, and it's a great city. And it reminds me of Roy, because he also liked the Big Whiskey.
Out of my head, right into the room. So when my ghost takes me from you, you can't remember the fool that I am. Don't cry, baby, don't cry.
I think there is a tribute feel to LeRoi in a lot of ways. I think it's reflected in some of the lyrics, and certainly it's reflected in the artwork.
I thought of my favorite album covers and how you could stare at them for a while you listen to music.
The sneeze
and
went
I
away.
thought I'd give a run at scribbling some ideas. The alligator pie, snake in the wood pile. Nice. I haven't drawn in a long time, so I wasn't sure how it would turn out. But I think it turned out fine. At least it can be entertaining while people are listening to the record if you don't have anything else to look at.
That looked like Roy.
I know, kind of. I did one that looked too much like Roy, and when I drew it, and he wasn't as like that, but it does kind of look like him, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Also like a lion is what I thought.
Hey, making records.
In California was earthquake.
Boy, I hope it doesn't look.
Whoa, cool.
This is the fancy one.
Yeah. Look at that dude. He's trippy. Then maybe there's more in.
There better be more.
Wow, that looks amazing.
It looks good. Oh, here.
So cool.
Donkey face boy.
This is horrifying in a way.
Yeah, I know.
It's really creepy.
Yeah, he's most creepy. Rabbits are creepy.
And this is the
donkey's
face.
donkey faced.
This is great.
Yeah, it's cool.
So
man.
into it. Oh, look at that.
That's the cover. It's cool.
Oh, I want to get some of these. I want to get each one of these blown up.
They're gonna have like I think every page, they're gonna have in here a little photo book of Roy, and there's gonna be the DVD, and the CD, and the extra CD, and then there's gonna be a book, photo book of all of us, and then all those posters.
Is this a font, or did you actually
hand wrote everything?
Really?
Yeah. You can see where I ran out of pen. Change pen. Oh, wrong pen.
That's some pretty neat handwriting you got there.
I always make up lyrics.
That's good.
And
a calligrapher and artist as well?
And then people get attached to versions of the lyrics that I made up on the spot live. Like there's a song that people ask for all the time called Number 40, which I've never ever written the lyrics for. But apparently there's a version out there that is the one that everyone likes. But the thing is that's unfair is that then when people want to play it, but I don't know it, and I never knew it. So people, why don't you do it? I don't know it. I never heard it before. I don't know what the lyrics are. I never knew what they were.
Just popped out of you one night.
They're just bleh. You know? I know it goes.
That's awesome.
That's I know the music for it. That's it. Same old thing I do all the time.
Dave, as a man, absolutely unique. There's nobody like this guy. If you ever get to spend time with him, you'll discover that he is hilarious.
I know he's hilarious. I've seen him perform. He loves to crack jokes and say things.
Touch me.
And he's casually funny too.
That looks exactly like this.
He doesn't try hard.
Like you two guys and those two guys. Like us both looking at it. Yeah, and then this whole thing. That'd be awesome.
As a writer, God, he's probably my favorite or one of my favorites. He's just absolutely intense on pushing the envelope, doing something new, finding great grooves.
I can't remember what the arrangement was or anything, so. All right. And the music's gonna come out of
all the rest of the guitar.
Because he's from South Africa and from other parts of the world, he has a different musical experience that makes him think a little differently.
I have very limited guitar skills, but I think I've exploited my limitations as well as possible.
No, he has good guitar skills.
Oh, that's a nice cue.
Wow. Love that feel.
Some of his main influences were these great South African, keyboard players. But he had a guitar, so he was like, how do I get these rhythms, these South African rhythms, into my pop songs? But the fact that there's this amazing mix of sound and soul and groove that he's constantly striving for makes him absolutely one of a kind.
Right.
Also, he's not that far off, is he?
Draws from every culture.
Dougie and Robbie. Are you already becoming impatient with me? What are you, out of your minds? What are you insane? I can't believe you're sitting there looking at me like, well, okay, let's finish this song, get on with something else.
Yeah, it goes to this B.
Yes, Commandant.
You're very sensitive.
Commandant. Isn't Commandant in
German?
German?
Will be broken by the end of this.
You're going to be in the middle of chorus 1. I like this section. You too.
I do like this section a lot.
Second end, obviously, we're going to fade. We can't do that forever because that'll drive any reasonable citizen insane. And then we're going to cut the rest of it up shorter, too. So should I do another acoustic, or do you think you have it more or less?
We got it.
I think this song could be interesting if I put my magic on it.
How much of this are we doing tomorrow? Some or none?
I need an adult.
Here, I mean.
Yeah, we can do a little bit here.
Do here? Yeah, I mean, I don't know. You're...
I have to sound check at 4. So I'm going to try it on that little Griffin. Just see what happens, if you all don't mind.
That was perfect, man.
I like that.
You guys ever, I think I've maybe mentioned this in a reaction or two, but I don't know if I did in the DMB reaction sets that I've done. Have you guys ever had that experience where you hear a song, you know the melody, you don't really know the words, so you wish you could just sing into Google search and hopefully it picks it up? I feel like we are either with AI right now we can do that, or we are like a few months removed from that reality, but that will change my life because there's like Shazam that exists now, but I don't think it's really well integrated into Google. But I want to be able to just sing the melody rather than like have to feed the actual song into the thing, because what if I hear it in a jazz club somewhere and I can't like record it in real time and fast enough so I remember the main motif? I would have to be able to sing it into the thing. Anyways,
little,
we'll see where technology takes us.
It's really cool, like, during the work.
Also, they need to make a documentary like this for 2025.
I can't even count how many shows I've seen. I've been working with the band since 1992-ish. I've never seen the same show, ever. There's always something new and fresh that happens.
Aliens next.
Fenton Williams, I'm the lighting director for the band.
Fall Out Boy, okay. It's a cool channel.
Ian Kuhn. I do the sound that the band hears on stage. I'm the monitor guy.
My name's Daryl. The band calls me G. More importantly, I'm in charge of personal security. I take care of these guys. It's my job to make sure that they go home the same way that they got here.
My name's Jeff Trump. I've been tour accountant with the band since 1995. In 1999, we came up with a plan to try and provide tickets to our fan base directly instead of having to get the tickets from the venues.
I think we're still one of the few artists that print their own tickets and handle such a large amount of fan club without using the venue's traditional ticketing system.
As our fans get in the front row, we get real excitement up front, and some of us who've seen the band 1,000 times, a little farther back where we can still enjoy.
My name's Alex. I'm the merchandiser for the band. I look after all the stuff that you see at a show, be it t-shirts and hats and that kind of thing. This is the 2009 spring tour line. There's one constant, though, and that is the white Fire Dancer shirt. It's in its 15th year. We probably sold 300,000 Fire Dancer shirts.
I came into it at such a young age. I was 18 at the time. I was really just thinking about audio. I wasn't worried about getting paid for it, and I think that really helped me get the job.
I've been here 10 years. I've known them 12, and I love every single day of it.
Somewhere right around 17 or 18 years that I've been working with them.
Summer number 14.
I've been with the band for 17 years now, and they keep getting better. Carter keeps getting stronger and faster.
I started working for the band in 1993 when they were still a little bar band, and we used to travel to shows in Dave's station wagon.
Keeping up with these guys was the big challenge. Every time you turned around, we were going from frat party to a national club act to playing arenas to stadiums. Instead of just looking and stacking the speakers and eyeballing things, we're getting blueprints of a venue and using protractors to design an audio system.
I usually hang out right behind the horns.
It's one of the things, like, to consider, just like the amount of times you have to level up in life to push past where you're currently at now. You have to just be that guy. You have to be capable, and if you're not capable, you have to become capable. It's always daunting, but everything in life, whatever you're dealing with, is daunting already, so you may as well choose the struggle that you have.
In the darkness, and when Roy was around, he rocked hard, and I would step right into the light and just pop him one time, just to let him know that's how you rock the house.
And struggling about music is a good struggle.
So our first band and crew photo had maybe 30 people in it, and it included the entire opening act and their crew. That was 95, and Deion Ferris was out with us. Nowadays, there's probably over 100, 110 people part of the whole thing, including the band.
It's amazing.
It's unbelievable the way it's grown.
When I started, I was kind of the core fan base. I was a college student. Those fans have grown up with the band, and now it's gotten to the point where people are coming with their kids, bringing a whole new generation into the thing.
We all have kids ourselves now. I have 3 boys myself. Dave has identical twin girls. I have identical twin boys, so chances of that on one tour are pretty slim, I would think.
You know, we've got the family at home. We come together, and we have a family out here that's really tight. And the family at home is always welcome out here. And it's the band members' kids and our kids, and everybody gets together really well.
This band has touched people more than just a good time on a Friday night, and that's powerful.
We're all thanking our lucky stars to have come together to be part of this. The band probably feels exactly the same way.
Yeah,
it's a really special thing, you know. That's why it's lasted so long, and there's no end in sight.
Thank you very, very much, everybody. Carter,
Sean? God, that was ridiculous that you did. What is wrong with you? You're unbelievable. That was one of the high points of my entire life.
Because of the camaraderie, that means everything to me. Just to share feelings and to share, vibes and to share great energy together again.
That's what about this band. That's a joyful band. I mean, we're a joyful band. But this record, it doesn't deal with a lot of real happy stuff. The last song on the record is the one song that is really hopeful. Right. The other songs, this is a dark train ride, but it is joyful.
It's joyful. When things are right and when you got things, when the communication and all that stuff is happening the way it should be, you can do anything you want. I mean, the sky's the limit.
Literally. It's coming together over the music. It's just like the ability just to laugh and not to take everything so seriously. That's made us last for 18 years.
This band's a good marriage. There's been moments of question as to if we all had it in us to keep going. The music always sort of overrides any question mark we might have.
And it hit the you guys hit it tonight. Stop your foot. I think you did it. Now it's made joy. Everything was nearly falling apart. I think we're all doing a good job honoring Roy's memory, I think. We don't have to be perfect to each other. We don't have to care about the same things, except the music. Because that says more for what we are than anything else. If we can make music together, real music together. I'll see you all out in about 3 minutes.
Sounds good. Damn!
Make it loud. Quick.
Wow.
Spicy chicken wings. Who's down with that? I had like a mocha, soy mocha. Can you do it soy mocha? Is that weird?
We had them yesterday.
Oh, really? I'm gonna get spicy chicken wings. May I have a quad? Thank you. Soy mocha. God, does that sound so wet farty?
Wet
sounds
farty?
like you could make a wet farty. I'm not allowed to talk to you because you're the cameraman. I just talk to the camera all the time.
Does this seem natural? Do I seem natural in your face?
Where are you now?
People that are watching Fuse television.
On the wet fart thing, one of my most embarrassing life moments that I don't think anybody knows about it except for me, which I'll just air out right now. I was deadlifting maybe like 3.5 years ago. It might be 4 at this point. I don't know. Anyways, I was deadlifting and had a wetter than normal fart. I left the gym right after. If you know, you know. The Road to Big Whiskey. There it is. What a documentary. I think I felt so many emotions. I felt happy. I felt sad. I felt just all over the place. And all of it is just based on all of those moments. I can't even speak. All of those emotions come from the love that I feel for the Dave Matthews Band. Why would they affect me in this way if I didn't care? I love them. It's so interesting to hear their journey from them in the ways that, they went up and down and left and right and losing a band member and transforming their music, going from producer to producer, traveling venues, who's helping them, how they engage with the fans, all of those elements and more. These are things that in a weird way I could have intuited, but hearing the mechanics, hearing some of the details, the things that don't get seen on the surface, even in the performances, we can only glean so much. This is why the behind the scenes are just so illuminating to me and anybody. So I really enjoyed this. I super hope that there's a 2025, maybe let's call it a 2026 documentary of this kind, maybe between 2009 and whenever that documentary comes out. because I think there's still a lot more of this story that's been told and that continues to get told, because of course they're going to continue touring. I've heard that Dave is not planning to ever stop performing until he literally poops his pants on stage, which is a very Dave thing to say, but also I think he literally means that. So we're going to be listening to them for quite some time. And I was also reflecting, I had a conversation recently and reflecting on the fact that I've only really been hearing the Dave Matthews Band for about four and some change months. It's not much, all things considered. Many DMB fans have been listening since the 90s. I have just recently, in the year 2025, discovered them. I am a lifelong fan now. It is what it is. You're stuck with me. I hope y'all enjoyed the reaction today. If you did and would like to request one yourself, whether it's Dave Matthews Band documentaries, performances, studios, interviews, whatever, I am totally game. You can do so by clicking the first link in the description box below. But as always, my friends, have a wonderful rest of your day. Long live the Grux King.